shit we do. All the gas we burn.
Hey, look at this. When I keep my head here, it says Squatch Talks Podcast out of my head. See?
Yeah, it's like you're having a great idea.
It's like an idea bubble.
If I say something embarrassing enough, he puts it at the beginning.
Froze our asses off in the name of research, just to
Yeah.
get you guys some material. This is what we go through. Hey,
Hey,
forget
right.
about it.
I
Fine.
just slapped up
that's
the,
it.
looks great.
I slapped up the lizard map.
No, you look good. Special guest Bob tonight, and we also have Terri joining us at HQ. So that's a treat.
You're welcome.
But she agreed to come in tonight and make sure we get it right.
It's exactly no.
I need a neck lift. I'm getting a little crepey.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's this damn HD camera, man. It shows all the imperfections.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for squatching. All right. Let me fix my background now. Okay.
Yeah, she's all rough.
All right. So here we go. Here we go. You're listening to Squatch Talks Podcast. Real stories and real encounters told by real researchers. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to Squatch Talks Podcast. And I'm Eric, and we've got Nathan and Brian here. And tonight we have some special guests joining us. We have Bob, who was an attendee on the Squatchsylvania expedition. And Terri Moyer is also in the house. Welcome, Terri.
Hello.
She's an investigator as well. And
That's right. Keep it in the family here.
right, and Nathan's squatching partner for how long? 20, how many years?
25.
25. Yeah.
25 years.
Yeah.
September will be 26.
Hey, my son just turned 25 on Tuesday, so
Yeah,
got that in common.
That makes me feel old.
Monday. I don't even know my son's birthday, Monday. But welcome Terri and Bob to the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Bob.
Good to be here.
Yes, yes.
So you may recall when we left off on part one, we had gotten through Friday night, but now that Terri's here, of course, things get jumbled. We forget a few things. So I was just reminded that there was some other things that occurred on Thursday night that Terri recalled. So I'm going to let her tell you what that was.
Yeah, we stayed back at the base camp with the two ladies or two newbies, Frank and Fran and Mike. And we didn't really hear anything going on. It was just a nice telling stories and entertaining the two newbies, the two ladies, keeping them happy and sitting there. And all of a sudden I had this hum in my right ear. And it wasn't a ring. It was just a weird humming noise. And I looked at Mike and I'm like, I hear a hum. And he's like, he just kind of looked at me and I'm like, it was just weird. It lasted for a little bit and then it just kind of, it went away. But the rest of the night was kind of silent, but we just had a good time sitting around the campfire and telling stories and just enjoying ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, so this hum, did you attribute it to being some sort of kind of activity, or or was it just something that stood out to be odd to you?
Your ears don't normally.
No, yeah, I don't. It might ring every once in a while. I don't get the hum like I did. And after talking to my brother, who was also on the expedition, he said he had the same similar hum the night before or the night after. He had the same hum in his ear, and he's like, it wasn't like the generators, some people running generators. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a hum.
Well, when he had that happen, he told me about that too. He said that was actually on the trail.
Yeah.
When we went across the street and went up and over, that's where the hum happened.
That was, I think, Saturday night that happened because
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Could you feel anything as well? I mean, you heard a hum, but could you feel any kind of vibration on the ground at all?
No, not that I took notice of. But
you telling us this, right? It reminds me of when I was on the PA expedition in Northwestern PA, and Todd and I were out the first night. We too heard this like a hum, but we also felt like a vibration on the ground, and we couldn't
Mhm.
relate it to anything specific,
Right.
I
Right.
don't know.
I mean, it's
Did-
something I should take more notice of next time, pay more attention to, everything. But at that time, it was kind of like I only heard it, and but
Did it create any type of feelings for you that like a slight bit of fear or anything like that? Only reason I ask is because typically, not typically, but there's been encounters where people get zapped or maybe experience this low frequency sound
Yeah.
or vibration, so
yeah.
I'm assuming this is why you brought it up, because it could be associated, especially with the activity that you guys had there.
I figured
Yeah,
you were going to
that's
mention the
definitely
frequency, Brian, because we just did that over the weekend.
right.
We
And
did.
that's definitely what I associated it with was some sort of frequency, some sort of something trying to communicate. And
Almost like the infrasound,
Right.
that low.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of when she said it right away.
yeah, and I
Right.
I looked around. I was just kind of like whoa, like perked up, and I'm just kind of like looking around to see if I see eye shine, any kind of anything like movement. I didn't see anything, but I felt like something definitely might have, was there. Like it was just, but we didn't get any, there was no
Nobody
movement.
else heard it.
No, nobody else had heard that at all. It's that
You
I
ever
know
felt
of.
anything like that before?
I cannot say that I have. That was definitely something new that I felt.
And where that took place, there's not really any industry in the area like gas pipe drilling or anything along those lines, right?
No, there's nothing else in there that would have caused that humming noise.
Because that's what
Nobody
I
had their
attributed. That's what I attributed the sound that Todd and I heard to, because there was gas lines in the area, of northwestern PA. I kind of attributed it to maybe being related to that. Well, that's very interesting, and I'm glad you
Yeah.
recalled that.
Yeah.
And Brian, but I also want to just mention quickly that the three of us got together over the past weekend. Brian came down from New York, right, to the Pine Barrens. Just a little tidbit real quick. Three of us, don't always get a chance to squatch together, and we had a special occasion that Brian came down on Thursday and set up a little base camp near a pond in the Pine Barrens, a satellite camp, mind you, which technically is not kosher in New Jersey. So we were taking our chances.
Don't tell anybody.
No.
But we pulled it off. And I brought my tent, my little round, that tent that I had at Northwestern PA that got the hand pushed into it. That was fun. And Brian set up a tent near the pond, away from where we parked the vehicles, in the event that state park police were to show up, we might be able to just kind of say, oh, we're just out here squatching, officer, And then Nathan came down on Friday with Terri and Crystal, and also their brother-in-law, Brian. We were also joined by Kristen and Art, and we had a pretty cool session of some paranormal type variety, right? We tried some different things,
Yeah.
including frequency. Brian had a frequency app, and Brian B had the all kinds of gear. I mean,
Singing bowl. Yeah, he had a
singing bowl, right? The Tibetan
All his
singing bowl.
paranormal stuff. He broke it all out. Yeah.
And we tried an Estes
Estes.
type of session, right?
Yeah.
Which
And we had
Nathan was great at.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had some
do that all the time.
really interesting results, and Kristen brought her SLS camera, and we had some interesting results with that. Pretty
Yeah.
creepy results. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could do a whole episode just on this, on the audio.
We
that
can.
recorded.
We can.
Well, yeah, just wait for the episode. We do one.
So there's a little teaser about what potentially could come in season 2. Okay. I don't know if you heard, if you listen to us on the Facebook live stream, I just, mentioned that this is going to wrap up season 1 for Squatch Talks podcast. We're going to end it with Squatchsylvania part 2. And then we're going to begin working on, season 2, which is going to kind of remain still true to, our format with real stories and real encounters. But we're going to be bringing on other investigators and people that will share their real stories with us. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Where do we want
We
to pick
have
it up,
our-
Nathan? It's your show.
yeah.
I would like to introduce Bob. You know,
Thank
you.
the people have been looking at him now, and we didn't really talk too much about Bob. Bob, he contacted me to join the expedition in Pennsylvania. And you want to tell a little bit about yourself, Bob? I mean,
I'm definitely a squatching noob. I live in Maryland. I'm a retired geospatial analyst from the Department of Defense, and you know, squatching or Sasquatch is something I've been interested in for many, many years. Watching all the TV programs, reading many books about the subject, and right now I'm a believer, and I want to become a knower. So
Cool. Well,
That's
stick
why I-
around.
Cool.
All right.
yeah, stick around.
Lots more to come.
Well, yeah.
And that was your
that
first
was my very
expedition.
first experience of,
Yeah.
of any kind.
That's awesome.
All
Well,
right.
it's a heck of a first expedition, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That one's going to be hard to top. That
Oh
was,
ye,
we had a lot
oh
of
ye of
fun.
little faith.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we
was
had a lot
gonna
of
say.
fun. I pulled out all the stops on that one. I called in a lot of favors, and that was a good one.
So am
Oh,
I
yeah.
going to be spoiled if I go on another BFRO expedition somewhere else that I'm going to
It's
be
possible.
disappointed in the level of activity?
Oh, not the level of activity. No,
The hospitality.
the level of spoiling. Yes, that might be.
Nobody can guarantee activity. All right.
No.
But I will say, I just found out
It's a hit or
Jacob,
miss.
remember Jacob from the Jersey expedition episode? He stopped by yesterday and he was telling me about what some of the events that transpired up in northern New Jersey on their expedition. So, hey, they had some good results, and I'm happy to say Larry pulled off a pretty, successful expedition. So congrats to him and his crew.
Yeah,
Cool.
I heard, not only did they have some activity, but they had quite a few bears too.
Oh, 'tis the season.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, getting back to PA, this is
PA,
Squatchsylvania.
yes.
Let's keep it
Yeah,
on
we ought
track
to-
here. I get a
We're
little
going to talk
kind of
about what we're
sidetracked.
talking about.
So
Hey, Target.
where did we leave off? We left off with almost Friday complete. Was there some of Friday that needed to be
I don't know if-
discussed yet?
I
or
have
no?
something I'd like to discuss.
Yes.
Sure.
So I don't know if it was Thursday or Friday, to be honest, but I was in your truck, Nathan, and we went up off a ridge road, and I think it was near campsite 10, and we split into two groups, and the group down the hill, which we
Yeah.
eventually made it there, it had started a fire.
Right.
And there was about 6 or 7 of us. We were by ourselves without a fire. And there was an episode where the coyotes really lit up,
Mhm.
and but there was something that I thought I heard right before that. So somebody did to use Eric's term, a provocation. And I thought I personally heard for a quick second a howl.
Mhm.
And then just like that, the coyotes just,
I'm really glad.
exploded all, in noise.
I can't tell you how happy I am that you just said that, Bob, because in writing all my notes down today with Brian and Terry chiming in and reminding us what we forgot about, he said that when they were sitting down there because you took that group down there and I stayed up where I got roared at. And he said right before the coyotes started howling, there was a howl.
I heard it.
And now you were at the other campsite though. We were still separate at that point, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the campsite that did not have a fire.
That's where I was, right?
Yeah.
Campsite 10.
So we heard the howl from both sites. So I have to re-listen to that audio and see what we got. I forgot all about that.
And to be honest, I had never heard so many coyotes start howling at one time. That was, that in itself surprised
impressive,
me.
yeah.
Mhm,
The first
mhm.
couple of times you hear that really gets the hair up on the back of your neck when you hear that. That's,
Other places too.
Yeah.
well, yeah. It's keeping it PG.
Hey,
That's
but
actually
I had my H2N in the tree, in the pine tree recording all night long. So I can definitely review that and see if I can pick it up.
It was quick. It was
Mhm.
real quick.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that, it says something because how many encounters include coyotes? How many howls have been recorded where there's been, coyote activity also in the recordings or other dogs howling, but
Yeah.
they say they run together. They almost work in conjunction in nature is one of the theories. So
Mhm. Yeah. I don't know who's helping
Well,
who, but it works out apparently.
I would definitely rather use a coyote to chase down a deer than my own legs. I know that,
sure.
and
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. The
I don't know.
squatcher after the, huh?
I'm just saying, from all the reports that I've heard with the Squatch's ability, I don't think they have a tough time, chasing down a deer, honestly. And they can leap
Yeah.
25 feet silently from boom to boom, and they're there. You know what I mean? If there's a herd of deer, they just smack them and grab them by the leg. I don't think they really have a tough time. I think the coyotes are the ones who are benefiting from this relationship, honestly. That's just
I
my
gotta
theory.
see, I gotta see one do it.
so
Yeah.
a lot of times, in reading, I read about like a sighting, a class A sighting, where the Squatch has like the two back legs of the deer and he's carrying it off to back to the lair or wherever.
Mhm.
So that implies to me there's another part of the deer somewhere that he doesn't, prefer or want. And maybe that's part of the relationship between coyotes and Squatches.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, I'm not a lot, but I've definitely heard a few cases where deer have been found that were just torn open and some of their organs were harvested
Mainly the
or,
liver.
taken mainly the liver, which has, I don't know, 15,000 or 20,000 grams of protein in itself, so,
Right.
That would be a lot. I don't think it's quite that much, honestly.
it's something big. It's
15,000 grams or milligrams? Maybe
or
milligrams.
maybe milligrams. It could be that. Yeah. But
Oh.
it's close to, yeah. So,
Not to correct you, I'm
but
just saying, I don't know.
no,
Lots of protein.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
a
It's
lot of
enough.
protein, a lot
And
of protein, and the
Chock
livers are
full of
huge.
vitamins and minerals. That's the key. I mean, that's really the most nutrient dense organ. That's why.
And that really
Yeah.
goes along with what's being reported from our friend up north there
Mhm.
in my research area. She said that they found animals in different stages of decay. And she said the squirrels and the smaller animals, like the rabbits, it's like they just grab them by the mouth and rip the front open and take out the organs, and the meat's not even worth eating.
Right. So that goes in line with what Eric was saying, and what I
Yeah.
was saying is more as like, the coyotes are benefiting from all the scraps, if that's the case. So
Yeah.
The Squatch are taking the high value food out of it and letting
sharing.
them have the scraps.
Mhm.
right.
So you're correct.
Sharing
Yeah.
is caring.
That's
So-
right.
So, Bob, that was your point you wanted to add on about Friday night, right? I want to add one more thing that we neglected to talk about. Not only did we have the fire at my location with my team, but we were roasting marshmallows and making s'mores. I neglected to mention that. So just one of the added perks of being on the Bravo team that night.
hey, you know what? Any sweet smells in the air could be an attractant as well.
Plus, it's the only way to get Heather to go after the fire with you.
That was the deal breaker. Yeah. That's what did it, for
Ulterior
sure.
motive.
Ulterior motive, absolutely. Now, just trying to remember, Nathan, did I bring bacon that night? Because the bacon s'mores is one of our specialties now. I
don't
forget.
think you did.
Yeah.
No,
Those
Yeah.
bacon.
we'll have to ask Ben. He was there too.
Now I'm hungry.
Bacon s'mores.
Bacon
Still
s'mores.
camping.
Sounds
Ready.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes us to Saturday, right?
Well,
Saturday,
well,
we can fill a
now
whole
wait.
episode just with Saturday.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Go ahead, Terry.
Friday night, who was it? My brother and Tony and a handful of people heard a big bang.
Oh yeah,
You discussed that?
yeah.
You discussed the big bang that
Oh,
they
yeah, the
heard
Big
in
Bang
the middle.
Theory. Yeah.
It was the Big Bang Theory. It was the gate and the branch.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I believe we talked about that on the other episode.
And
That happened early morning, though, right? Around
that was
3 or 4 a.m. So
yeah, and
technically, that's Saturday.
No, Friday morning.
Oh, okay.
There was one, yeah, there was one that morning and Saturday. There was two of them that
Oh,
had
I don't
happened.
remember the
Yeah,
Saturday
yeah,
one.
the only,
Your brother didn't tell me about the Saturday one.
yeah, there it happened twice. Well, Brian might
what
not have
could that
heard that
be?
one. Tony, I know we went to the gate and we found the big stick, but we were throwing rocks at the gate. Found the
was
big
Friday.
stick. But there was another one before that, but we don't know what happened, what that one was.
I don't remember.
We don't know if
one.
that was actual,
What do you think it was?
a wood knock the first time. If Tony gets on, we'll know if it was 2 nights. I'm pretty sure it was 2 nights. I know Tony heard, I think, both of them. And I think maybe the first one was a wood knock. The second one was, it sounded more of a metal bang. Also,
didn't
when we
hear
were
it.
scouting down where you were sitting, when we were scouting when we had that roar, and then Saturday night, we had friends come over and we were scouting. They had a metal bang we heard when
that's
we were
right.
down there. Yeah, we don't know where that came from, but we definitely heard like a metal bang. So that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I gotta start writing this stuff down all the time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
a lot of stuff happens and like you're not sure if it is something or like, I mean, we weren't like under like walnut trees or anything like that, something would have fell and banged. It was a weird metal. It was definitely a metal, something hitting metal, like it did with the gate there. You heard that nice bang with the gate.
And
It
you
just
mentioned
so happens that-
walnuts. That time of year, the acorns are falling.
Yeah, but I don't
But-
think we were around any walnut
No,
trees
I
or
don't think
anything.
so. Mm-mm.
No, we were
No,
all in,
and
it's all pines.
And you guys are saying the volume was tremendously loud, probably louder than what would be. I mean, you didn't find any evidence of anything falling on or near these gates, right?
Well,
And
the
then-
gate, we had that big stick, that big
That was at
stick.
base camp. The bang she's talking about, they never found anything metal.
No,
Never found anything.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
but,
Well, I'll tell you what, if I wanted to make myself known or my presence, or maybe if there was some kind of frustration, I would pick the loudest thing that I could to kind of shake people up. And it would be those gates because they're big and
Mhm.
hollow and they make
Mhm.
such a loud noise compared to anything else that they would bang on out there. So,
That's for sure.
yeah.
Good point.
But I think that wraps up Friday.
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Saturday was a good day. We had Delwin Fiddler show up and he gave us the do we have any pictures we can add of him?
Mhm.
That
Oh,
would
sure.
be good. Throw a picture of Delwin in there. I don't even know how to explain what they were different dances and different Native American. He gave us a lot of facts, a lot of history.
Just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
And Ben, didn't Ben do his,
That was Friday.
was that Friday when
Yeah.
Ben did his?
You missed that.
Okay.
That one.
The one I found intriguing was Jeff's tale of habituation and how he had a group where he
Yeah,
went
that
back
was-
repeatedly.
That was Saturday night too, right? Yeah, because I missed that one.
Yeah. We're
I did miss the initial presentation, but I kind of sat up next to Jeff and we kind of hit it off.
yeah.
And he went through the whole thing for me and just me. And we had a long conversation about his activities. And I also was impressed with that walking stick that was gifted to him. You
Yeah, that
guys
was
remember
beautiful.
that where they made it, apparently the Squatchers made it by hand and left it as a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. That's don't give away too much stuff. He's going to be on here soon. So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not part of the inner circle of you
Yeah,
guys. So I don't know
that's right. That was a good
plans
teaser.
and-
That was you
the full
teed that up
extent
like
of
a
the campaign of denial and deception.
professional. Yeah, have a picture of Delwin here.
Well, can you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, this is who Nathan was just mentioning. Delwin, Chief Delwin, came and participated on Saturday.
He's the
And,
holder of the pipe. I'm not exactly. He told me what it means, and I don't want to say it wrong, so I'm not gonna.
And you can tell in his left hand, he's holding a drum, which is handmade. Okay. And he had the ceremonial garb on, the headdress and everything. And amazing. We had a big fire going.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. There's the end of it right there. But yeah, quite the ceremony, and all the attendees that stuck around were very pleased and privileged to have that as part of our.
The neighbors camping even came over and watched. Their little kids came over and watched him do all his demonstration. He used to perform competitively at, I guess it's almost like in conjunction with rodeos, I would imagine, or maybe it's all by itself. I'm not really sure, but he used to compete with the different dances and stuff that they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite a interesting character, let me tell you. And he stuck around and
had dinner with us.
Dinner with us. Heather and I got to have dinner sitting right next to us and talk to him a little bit more, and then he blessed the expedition.
I was going to say, yeah, right before he left, we asked him to, say a few things, and I noticed at dinner, because I had asked him before dinner to say something before he left, he was breaking and giving back to the fire, and I guess asking for us to have a good night, and boy, did that work.
The majority had a good night.
Yeah, I think ultimately it had a lot. That's a hey.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, Terri went to the reservoir. You had what? There's 4 or 5 of you that went there.
Yeah, there was 5 of us that went there. Not much happened, but we had a good time. Just doing some wood knocks and stuff. I mean, we heard some rustling, but nothing to say definitively what it was. But
now, that reservoir where they were, Matt was actually there with one of the first BFRO expeditions there.
Probably in the 80s or something. No,
it was in the 90s, but I think it was 96.
That's one of the first, yeah.
And they actually have audio of one of the attendees was parked in her car just down from the reservoir. And it actually approached her car.
Yeah,
so
I'll say.
And it was
you actually hear
pretty
her.
great audio too.
Yeah, it is. Very good audio.
It's pretty neat.
I wonder if we could add that.
Maybe.
I'm all ears.
It's a good area with a long history. So.
And it's quite beautiful also, I will say that.
Yeah, it really is.
And Heather and I stopped there on our way down to Gettysburg on Saturday, actually, and checked it out.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Very squatchy too, by the way, I have to say.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, I feel like I have to just turn it over to Eric and Bob here, because
that's where the action was.
I was driving around. I had Frank and Fran with me, I think, and somebody else. Who else was with me?
Mike Collier?
No. Well, it was somebody else, and John was following us in his car, and everywhere I wanted to go Saturday night, because I gave up Dead Woman's Hollow, because I didn't want to hike. I mean, obviously my back was done. I couldn't walk. So the only person I knew to send there was you, because I knew you'd go as far up as you could get everybody to go.
I don't want to correct you, but the pretext, okay, again, you gave
him the good spot.
The honey hole. I heard him mention honey hole before. Okay, I was happy to go wherever you said, but you did give us the option. So
I know,
anything with anything in there, I'm there.
I know, but I knew I wasn't going to hike it.
What you just said, the pretext, and Bob will back me up here, I'm sure. The pretext of me going to this location was we're going to park on the road and hike about 300 yards in instead of
Hey, it was your choice.
That was the choice.
You didn't have to hike all the way in.
No, 300 yards, and a couple of the guys that were on my team were like, "Yeah, that sounds good. I'm with Eric."
Yeah, 300
right,
yards.
Bob?
That's not far.
Yeah,
so
that's the story I was sold.
It's the old bait and switch. This is 300 yards
It was about that, right? 300 yards, and we crossed over that little bridge by the creek, you know. And
Exactly where I told
looked
you.
around.
Made the left turn, then climbed the Baton Death March.
It was such a short walk. It was supposedly such a short walk. I left my camp chair back at the truck. Even, you know, I'm like, don't need that, right? So we get in there, and we found the entrance, which again isn't easy because I wasn't there during the day to have the ability to scout it out, right? So we show up, we get there, we park the vehicles, and we begin hiking in, stealthy. And I forget how the moon was, but we had some decent lighting, I think, even without any headlamps,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it was very bright.
We get to that area, and even by moonlight, I'm looking around, I'm going, this is not suitable. So I said, why don't we continue a little further, I said.
You were at that point, you are near, sorry, at that point, you are pretty near a creek.
Oh, yeah.
After you cross the bridge. And it does babble quite a bit. There is a lot of rocks.
A lot of background
quite
noise.
noisy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which detracts from our ability to record any kind of, you know, vocalizations or knocks and things like that. Okay. So I said to the team, hey, let's continue up the trail a little bit. And it quite quickly started to go up in elevation. Am I right, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to hear Bob's account of this.
Take it away.
So
Eric is back there with a whip. No.
No, not at all. And you know, I did hear that 300-yard story, and so you know, we get over the bridge and through the woods, and there was a big left turn in the trail, and it was still a gentle grade at that point, and then there was a right turn where we got close to the stream, and that's where the trip to Baton started, and you know, we trudged along, and then it was a good ways. We had to be at least 2/3 of the way up that ridge, and then a couple, you know, a couple rebels started expressing their opinion. Why don't we, like, this looks like a good spot to set up a you know, a little base site. So and then Eric and two others
Well, first,
eventually went
before you
almost all the way to
proceed,
the top of the ridge.
no, we didn't get quite there. I had on my team, we had Bob, we had Patty and Tony and Eric, Patty's husband. Eric was on our team, and Gary, who was also an LEO. Okay. And Jeff Shepard. Okay. So that was everybody on our team. I didn't have my, you know, one of my rules is usually you put on your digital recorder when you get to a location, you start recording, because I've missed whoops pulling into a spot, right? So I'm usually very good about that. I was a little tired at this point though. So I'm walking up, and we got to a certain area, like Bob was saying, and I could hear some of the attendees, some of the participants were getting a little winded. So I said, why don't we stop here and set up a little base camp like we did in BC at this ridge where we had two groups, and the people who weren't as able sat down below, and then another team went up higher, right? And they just basically sat along the road. I didn't, hey, nobody's, no name calling here.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah. But so I'm very, you know, agreeable to that. And so what do? We start setting up a little base camp right on the trailer, right? And I'm demonstrating how I usually do. Okay, I like to open my zippers up on my bag so I don't make any noise once we get set up. And I like to open my snacks. So I take my peanut butter pretzels and I go like this, and they fly up into the air and they land on the ground, right? Just as I'm about to pick them up, we hear the first howl come across the ridge, right? Like literally a minute after we started setting up.
It might not even have been that long.
I swear.
It might have been like 40 seconds.
Really, I know. And I grabbed my digital recorder and I quickly turned one on and then went for the second one, you know what I mean? And of course, broke rule number one of not having the recording going. So
nobody else had the recorder on in the group?
Jeff did.
Jeff did.
Say, there was a little bit of Squatch
curse
magic going on, Squatch curse going on there. Because his
Jeff
recorder didn't
Jeff
work.
actually, you can hear Jeff on my recording say, well, I had mine on, Eric, because you taught me that I'm supposed to have it on from when we get out of the truck. And I was like, great, good, that's cool. And I was like, man, well, hey, let's go. I think at that point, you know, we achieved our goal, you know, in 1 minute.
Yeah.
10:30.
Yeah.
Let's go home.
Exactly. It was even early.
So Bob,
this might be second nature, you guys, but that recording and I've discussed this earlier, that recording didn't do justice to what I heard with my own ears.
Thank you.
I mean, those howls were loud and they were fairly close, and they seemed to be up the trail to the left side of the trail, like maybe at the headwaters of the creek in that
The
direction.
opposite ridge, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Which means,
they-
Nathan, if you would have, been at your spot, you probably would have heard it too. Okay, with your group.
We would have been like way close to it.
Yeah. So, and that's why, if you recall, Bob, at that point, I didn't respond. Okay. I said I wasn't sure because they were so good and so loud. I didn't know if there was a team up on that hill because I, again, hadn't been there before. I didn't know where that campsite location was in relation to, because like you said, the thing turns, you know what I mean? You get easily off,
Oh yeah, you
kilter.
get all
I don't know what direction's north at that point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mm.
anyhow, I didn't know if it was you and your team. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, who's got a call that good? I'm thinking
Right.
nobody
It's
on
not
his
me.
team. Brian's not there. Right?
Yeah.
If Brian was there, I'd say maybe, but
No.
so I didn't
Oh, it-
respond, and I'm trying to reach you on the radio, and that's rule number 2, of course. Have your radio on, right?
Oh,
I'm not
it was
getting
on.
anything. Oh, it was on, I know, but you weren't up the hill. All right, that's what made it difficult. All of a sudden, then we get a radio transmission back. Oh yeah, Alpha Team here, and I'm like, oh, did you do a howl? No, negative.
We're still in the truck.
I was like,
driving
oh,
down
great.
the road.
And he says, I'm still in the truck. I'm like, what the hell are you doing in the truck? So
Oh,
that's
boy.
when
Staying warm.
that's when I did a return vocalization at that point. Am I correct?
Well, let's before we get there, I
Okay.
want Bob's impressions here. Now, you said it was loud. I want to know your feelings. Like, this is your first time. Is this your first time hearing a howl
It's my
like
first
that or
time
anything like
anything.
that?
I'm like virginal.
Okay, so as Eric's opening up these pretzels and then this howl goes off, what is your impressions at that time? Like, what was going through your head?
Wow. And the other thing is, I just concentrate on being quiet and trying to listen, to what I was hearing in the distance, as opposed to all the superfluous like noise that Eric was creating.
Somebody else was
Guy
talking.
says be
Now.
quiet. Freaked out. Yeah.
And
But
then-
it was, I can only say wow. I mean, that's how, that was my initial take on it, and then I got a big smile on my face when the third one ended, and I could see the eyes lighting up on some of the other participants, telling me that this was special for them too. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel I feel like being my first time to experience something like that it was special, and I'll always remember it.
If you could put to words the sound that was made, how would you describe it?
Well, I guess it was, what I would call a howl, and it was 3 of them, and they were equally spaced. And there was probably 3, 4, 5 seconds between each one.
Mhm.
Does that sound right, Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 to 10. Mhm.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm so sorry I missed this expedition.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I got to say thanks, Bob, for all the kind words there. I mean, what you said about your experience makes me feel so good that I was able to, provide that place and that time for you to do it. I mean, it's
I love you, man.
it was
And I can-
great. I mean,
Well, like I said before, I've always been a believer, and now I want a journey to know her. And that, there was my first step right there.
yeah, yeah.
The in-person, legitimate firsthand experience,
And I
So,
can relate to the wow, because in BC I had that power knock came from up on the hillside in front of us the first night, and I literally just grabbed my camp chair and I went, "Oh my God!" And I'm sure it was that kind of a, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, the first time
the
something
other-
like the first time something like that happens, you're like, I knew it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
I did become a knower on that same expedition though, because I saw one before we left BC. Sorry, Brian.
No, that's good. No, I just wanted to say that, again, with the howls, I mean, I've heard things and then my jaw has just dropped and it's like you said, it's what feeds your interest. It's what keeps you going and it helps build on your research and things that you do.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm so glad,
He didn't just hear a whoop, he heard a howl.
Right, right.
3 howls.
And the thing that I've thought about since then is like that area. I mean, there's a lot of trails crisscrossing that area, a lot of logging roads. There's roads going through it. I mean, where do these creatures live, hide?
Think about that exactly. And I had this exact same conversation with one of the rangers when we were talking to him, because he said the same exact thing to me. All these roads and all the people that come out here and 4-wheel and snowmobile and ride bike and hike, they're all on the trail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody ever ventures more than 5 or 10 foot to take a leak. They move off the trail a little bit. They come right back on. They don't want to get lost. Nobody's really bushwhack hiking.
Mm-hmm.
And that area is way thick enough. And there's plenty of places. I know there's caves and stuff in there that nobody knows.
We found caves that we explored.
Yeah.
That we did not go over there, but yeah, there are definitely caves and stuff that you can definitely, something could definitely live in.
Yeah. There's more going on between those logging roads and trails than people think.
The eye.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Another point that you guys might have forgotten. Do you remember I brought a bag of apples to Dead Woman's Hollow? And I put 2 on a rock right where we parked the cars.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, I didn't know that.
And then when we went down the road and took the left and started going up, put 2 more on the right side of the trail there. And then when we left the base camp, I left the rest of the apples there.
He was gifting
And
along the
when
way.
we came back, those 2 sets of 2 apples in those 2 locations were all gone. They weren't to be found.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, I know.
Hey.
That's crazy. See,
Yeah.
but and that's a great point to remember, because like obviously the team that I took with me further up, which we're getting to next, that kind of stuff, I don't want to say pales in comparison, but I mean, I was blown away at that point. So I remember you telling me it, but I wouldn't have picked up on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's great that you remembered that.
Yeah, you were still flying high.
Oh my God. I mean, I had that experience.
Oh.
Well, the howls were incredible, but it's like anything else. You get those kind of results and you're excited and you're thrilled and grateful and all that. But I mean,
that's what we're there for,
But then, like I said, we continued back onto the trail after we had that initial, we hung out there for a while and we thermed a little bit. I thought I picked up something on therm actually. At the time though, I only had the FLIR Scout. I didn't have the AGM, so I wasn't quite sure. Okay. We hung out for a little longer, right? Rested up a little bit. And then I said, hey, let's keep going. Right. So we keep trudging up this hill, and Eric actually had an app on his phone that was supposedly giving us some direction as far as height, elevation and all this stuff, right? Distance.
Right.
And I had said, this is where I'm trying to achieve that spot where you guys did the track trap on the expedition previous. Okay.
Right.
So again, we got up to a certain point and some of the attendees were getting a little winded again. So I said, okay, we're gonna do like a Pied Piper thing. We're gonna set up a base camp here, and I'm gonna take a few guys with me, and we're gonna continue back up, and then we'll do some back and forth provocations and see what happens. Okay. So at that point, we left Bob and Gary and Patty and Eric at that location, and Tony and Jeff and I continued up on the trail. According to Eric's fancy thinking box, it said we had 1,500 whatever to go. I thought that meant feet, whatever, right, to get to this location. Now I'm beginning to question. I think it was elevation.
It was feet, but it was straight up.
Yeah, elevation feet. Yeah.
You're lucky it wasn't meters.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I have no idea what it was. I wasn't looking at it, so I was just relying on what he said, and we continued going. But very soon after we left you guys at that location, and I left you with the therm, the fireman's therm, and we had it like Squatchsylvania, so you could see something coming up the trail on you guys. The 3 of us continued on, but very soon that trail bends to the right. There's a nice, bend in the trail, and there was a branch laying on the ground, fresh leaves on it and everything, like a Y, big branch. So as soon as we stepped across this branch and continued around the bend, the temperature dropped 20 degrees, the wind whipped up. We could no longer hear the stream below in the ridge. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Could see our breath coming out of our mouths. I mean, this was all pretty strange, right?
Mhm.
As soon as you stepped over this log,
Practically as soon as we stepped over this log, it was almost like I hate to say, like a portal of some sort. Okay?
For the listeners, this was in the month of October.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we all three of us noticed it. Okay. So I remember looking at my watch at the time and saying, oh, it's 1:34 already. Wow, time flies when you're having fun, you know? I mean, so I made that mention. We continue hiking and hiking. And it's just, I don't know how long it was, another half hour. So, and I finally said to the guys, hey, I don't think we're going to make it to this spot. I said, let's stop
Right.
here. I radioed down to the other team and I said, let's try some back and forth provocations. And I asked Patty to do a couple of whoops. We couldn't hear her whoops at all. Okay. So
You could hear through the radio that you could contact her.
we had radio contact. Yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't hear anything coming up the hillside. And it really didn't strike me as being that far. So I
Right.
tried to do a couple of knocks. They didn't hear the knocks. Okay. That's when I
We
did
heard
one of my,
nothing.
you didn't hear anything. Yeah. And then I did a call, which is usually pretty loud and carries, and you didn't hear that either. And that's really what I found odd. Okay. So we're basically standing there on the trail, the three of us.
Yeah.
We decided not to continue on at that point because apparently it was far enough already. And I look over to the left side of the trail and there's a headlamp about 15 feet away, about 8 feet up in the air, like directly looking at me. And I'm like a white headlamp looking thing. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I had never, and I'm going like this, swaying back and forth to see if it's a star or a moon coming through the trees, or a plane. Sometimes you'll see a plane coming at you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm
if the
going
light's
like this,
directed right at you, it's bright. Yeah.
directly, yeah. And like it wasn't blinking, it wasn't wavering at all. It was just right there. Okay. And I'm watching this. This must be 15, 20 seconds at this point, 30 seconds. I lost track of time. And then it just sank down slowly and extinguished. It didn't just blink out. It just sank down and went out. And I turned to the right and I asked Jeff and Tony, and I see Tony's now sitting down in his camp chair. And I start to ask, and he says, well, wait a minute. You guys were talking earlier about, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, getting zapped. I said, yeah, he said it right. He goes, can you explain that to me? So we explained, how it can affect you. You can feel nauseous or dizzy or fearful, disoriented. There's,
Headache.
headaches. There's a lot of different sensations people experience with what we call being zapped. And we, attribute it, of course, to like infrasound possibly, right?
Mhm.
And Tony tells us that he felt like two fingers pressing in right on his forehead between his eyes, to the point where he had to sit down. And he's a big guy, tough guy. I can't explain that either. Jeff and I both felt like our guts were twisted. So I don't know if you would call that being zapped.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's
And-
when I
and
proceeded
all
to tell
this-
them about the light. Yeah.
And you guys were all experiencing all this at the same time. This light was visible.
Right. Oh, and I did say, did anybody see a light? And Tony said he saw a flash.
Right.
So I don't know how long we stayed up there, but we did, attempt to do a few more provocations. No results after that. And so we decided to head back towards the other team. As we're heading back down, I remember looking at my watch again and saying, oh, it's only 1:15. Not, the night is young.
Right.
Is
So-
it a time variant? I don't know.
So you thought it was 1:30,
Yeah,
and now when you went back after all that hiking, it was only 1:15.
right. So, and
But
Ben
it-
during his
12:30.
presentation, right? I think during Ben's presentation, he was talking about time variance, if I
Yeah.
recall.
Mhm.
So I thought maybe we experienced something like that. I don't know. But
It's not very likely that it was 12:30 because there's too many numbers, you know.
again, I
Could
had
have
my
missed the two.
in all honesty, I had my watch set for the 24-hour time, and I'm not ex-military, so I might have screwed up. I'm just being honest. Okay.
What number was Mickey's hand on?
You're supposed to say that in the beginning of the episode so I can use it in the banter.
Well, you might have to move that
I
part.
still can. Well, Mickey was saying it was 1:15 at this point, okay? Because I remember it saying 1300. No, I'm kidding. It was but that's another odd experience. So I left there feeling a little twisted. So that's why I didn't notice the apples missing. But I remember you saying something about it, you know?
Yeah, I know that really affected you. I know it because it finally got you to talk about the woo. So
The woo, I was gonna say, yeah, the fact that you're even talking about the woo, you know,
Yeah.
and little experiences add up, you know, and they start really kind of opening your mind up to certain things. So
Yeah. Well, Pennsylvania is definitely the most paranormal state I've been to, for sure. You
Mhm.
know?
thank you. It does.
Yeah, they try the Gettysburg battlefield at night.
Right.
We're going.
I'd like to. It's on my bucket list.
We just talked about that Friday night. We're planning a trip.
Yes, we did.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
Talk
one
about
other
that
thing about
Friday night.
Dead Woman's Hollow. If you remember, when we decided to, head back to the cars, and if you remember, we most people shifted from the red light to the white light
Mhm.
to make it easier to negotiate.
Yeah, it was kind of
And when we
steep.
got about halfway down the hill, we realized there was some form of a structure or something on the right side of the trail going downward.
That's
You
the
remember-
camp.
do you remember
That's
that?
that's the cabin where the girls were killed. Why did
There
everybody
is,
turn
there
on?
is a cabin. There is a cabin right there.
Honey, he was making a joke.
I wanted to see
So-
what Bob's reaction would be.
That
So-
one flew right over my head.
So Bob, when you noticed the structure on the right hand side, was it something that nobody noticed on the way going up? Would it
That is
stick out in
correct.
that
Yes.
sense?
And I wasn't the one that noticed on the way down, but other people like, hey, wait a minute, look at this, And we don't know if we just missed it because we had the red lights and then it was easier to see
Most likely.
and was
Yeah.
pre-existing, or if
Mhm.
it's something that was created while we were up there.
No, well, it's not out of character or, for a Squatch to try and do something or block a trail or, you'll find things where
Mm.
you hadn't walked in and on the way out, there'll be something there. So
Very
that's a good thing
common.
to bring up.
Yeah. It's actually
Yeah.
very common,
Yeah.
Brian, where
Yeah.
teams have gone up a trail, right, to a location. On the way back, they come across an arch, in the
Mhm.
trail. I
Mhm.
know from a story I heard that occurred in BC, they had an arch in the trail on the way back, and there was actually a bird's nest sitting on the top of the arch. Kind of
We
neat.
had
Wow.
that tree across in Maryland.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
wasn't
Oh, yeah.
there wasn't there, when we were out
All day.
scouting, and then when we went back at night, it was across the road.
Nice live tree.
Big
pulled
one.
down across
Yeah.
the road.
Yep.
And
We'll
I
tell
found
that story.
feathers stuck in the trail. I found like a beaver jaw once on my return hike. So there's odd situations that
Yeah.
I can't say 100% are attributed to Bigfoot, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was Sasquatch, but it was Sasquatch.
Well, New York, we had that scouting for New York, and we walked a certain trail a certain way in. On the way out, we found this old '80s cassette tape
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was on the trail. It's the same place we walked in. We would have noticed it on the way in. So
Yeah,
that was
because an hour before that, we were cleaning up all the trash to make sure we didn't leave anything.
right.
Mhm.
Yep.
So we
So
would have definitely.
What was
seen
that tape again, Brian? The best of the Doobie Brothers, was it? I
rest of the
forget.
doobies. Yeah. Yep.
it. Right. Oh man.
So was that it for pretty much activity for the
After the house, yeah, it wasn't too much to top that, but while they were having the house and hiking further and further up the hill into the time variant there,
The Twilight Zone.
the Twilight Zone, I went back to base camp with my group, and sat around a fire and just started throwing logs on the fire.
Which I got to interrupt you real quick because honestly, we had such a brief radio transmission, right? When you were
Yeah.
driving back towards base camp, and I first got to hear, and that's when I did the provocation, of course. But I right after that, I tried to radio you and say, "Hey, why don't you join us?"
I know.
And grab my chair on the way up.
Right. Because as we're coming down the hill, I heard you, responded, told you it wasn't me. And by that time, I'm up and out of radio contact. So you said, come back. And and everybody in the truck, we all were talking about it. And we all decided, well, we don't want to stop back and screw up any action. We're just going to keep going. Because I didn't want to go back and possibly ruin what was happening for you by.
Makes sense. But yeah, the invitation was there. I just want you to
know. I know. But we went back to base camp and I sat there for, I think you went to bed.
No, Brian, Charles, and I went down the trail again.
Yeah, they went down the road.
We went back down to the trail where Patty had her hit, and
which is where we cast the footprint.
Well, they went past the footprint down to the ATV trail, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that where Patty had her hit, and
Crystal felt sick there.
Yeah, we were having knocks going on too.
Cool.
While we were there. Yeah, not that night, but when it was just me, Crystal, and Patty, and was it Jeff? I think Jeff was with us.
Jeff Shepherd.
No.
Scott was with you. No, Scott.
That was us. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
I forget.
But anyways, we had we were having knocks and stuff going on while we were sitting there. And so then, but that night, that's when my brother heard the humming in his ear. Like
Saturday
he had
night.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because I remember I thought you were radioing us to get us to come back, and actually you were saying, no, stay away.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So I was saying, no, we're having stuff happen. Stay down
Shut
there.
up. Don't radio me again. And don't get anywhere near us.
Right.
Negative
exactly.
energy.
It was like, we're having stuff happen. But it was with Patty, with the therm hit. I said, when the guys come back up, I'm like, shoot the therm on them so we can get like a size comparison, how far away it was, that kind of thing. And it pretty much looked like maybe about your size coming back up. So it was kind of interesting just to see compare with. But yeah.
When you say you guys heard the knocks, I mean, was it knock coming? Is it almost like communication between maybe two squatches, or was it just knocks coming from one area?
Just from one area.
Did you notice them like right after you got settled, or were you there for a while after you heard it?
Well, after we separated, that's when we started hearing some knocks behind us. Crystal started feeling sick and not, so I said, let's move and see if you feel better. Cause that's usually her signal that something like getting zapped. She feels, always sick. And
she gets sensitive.
Yeah, she's sensitive. So we moved up the trail a little bit and she felt better. And then Patty thermed down there. And that's when she got the hit, like right behind where Crystal was sitting, right down there. And we were just watching it bop back and forth. It seemed to move away. Then it came back. And then I had Patty do some whoops just to see if we can entice it to come back. And then we did have a couple little knocks behind us too, again. So it was a pretty good night.
So, you got to remember that morning, the two ladies had what they thought was a sighting, which we can't roll out bare, but they thought they had a sighting of something tall and black. That was handsome. In the morning and handsome. In the afternoon, we cast a footprint that wasn't there on the way out the trail to see what I was going to see.
Yeah.
And then that night, they had that happen. So, I mean, all the evidence is lining up.
Of horse manure,
and the horse manure
really
smell.
Strong in that same spot where the girls found where the girls thought they might have seen.
So, I mean, it really lends itself to be, the evidence is lining up,
Right, and that's an active area, of course. You guys have had activity in the past. Just 2 weeks prior, of course, you had that encounter. You and Terri were at the remote campsite.
Yeah, you want to
had the screen. Would you like to give us your perspective on that occasion?
My
roar.
perspective,
Yes,
it
we heard-
was,
Because you had to hear it over top of my roaring.
Because
Yeah,
you
it
heard
was
it
like-
first.
yeah, I did.
I was dead to the world.
Yeah, it was, I guess it's the mom and me. I hear like things and wake up. It was like about 10 of 12, and I heard this weird noise. I popped my head up and it's silent. And I'm like, okay, it must have been him snoring. So I lay back down. I hear it again, pop my head up again, and I'm just like listening. And I thought, you know what? I'm staying up this time and I'm going to listen. Sure enough, it did it like this deep roar is all I can explain it as. In short, it wasn't long. It was just a deep roar and it was done and it paused. And I thought, I woke him up and we see him like, just quiet and sit up. So he sat up and I said, listen, and it did it again. It was like a nice pause and then roar. And it scared the crap out of us. We were both just silent because I didn't want to startle it or, or even let it know that we're there. And I tell you, after listening to Dixie Cryptid, one of his Dog Man episodes, I was I was like, okay, I was done. I'm like, because I wasn't sure what it was. I can't even say what it was. I can't say it was Scotch.
How many times did you hear it before you woke me up?
At least 2 times, and then woke up, and it kept doing it. It went on till 12:40, I think it was. But we thought it was going around us, and here I think it was calling for another one. And it was waiting for a response.
They were
And it came,
surrounding us.
yeah, and one answered it behind us. We heard one definitely behind us. And
Well, actually, the way we were sitting, that would have been the second one we heard would have been down towards where you guys were for the remote site.
yeah, it definitely one responded and then it was silent.
Yeah.
So, but we both were like, okay. I was waiting for him to go back to sleep to say, yep, it's good now. I'm like, okay.
Well,
Did
it's
you
really
stay up
cool
for the
to
rest
hear.
of the night? I think you stayed up,
What?
didn't you? Didn't Nathan tell me he stayed up for the rest of the night though after that?
We stayed up for a while.
Yeah, we were definitely up for a while. We were just
bet.
kind of like, all right, who's going to go to sleep first? It's kind of one of those things. Okay, one of us goes to sleep, then we know we're good, But
Well,
I have a feel for about how far away it was.
oh, I'm not good with distance or anything,
I
but
really think
it felt really strong and very. It seemed like it was kept coming closer.
the amount of what do you call that?
Percussion?
Or
Volume.
whatever.
Volume, yeah.
The sheer volume of it, I think, and I don't know if you can remember where we were sitting that night, how far away the road is. I think it was on the road. It was like right next to the cars, I think.
Wow.
So where's
Yeah.
that put? Maybe about what, 50 yards from you? Maybe.
Yeah. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could feel it, you said.
Oh,
Oh
You
God.
guys were
Yeah.
on the air mattress and you said you
Yeah.
could feel
Oh, yeah.
vibration.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Like I
all.
said, we were dead silent. We didn't say nothing. We didn't budge. We were just listening.
That was one of those things. You heard it roar. I held my breath. I didn't even want to breathe.
Mhm. Even a
Yeah.
hint that we were there.
Really.
The fire was out at that point, right?
Fire was out.
Yes. Mhm.
But that sounds like it was pretty scary. I know I
Yeah.
probably would have been a bit scared,
Yeah.
definitely. You hear something like that, you don't know what it is, and didn't quite sound like a Squatch howl or a Squatch vocalization,
No, if I would have heard a whoop at the end of it, I would have been like, okay, that's a Squatch.
Mhm.
But
Right.
because it
right.
sounded as vicious as it did, I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Bobcats, what I've been listening to the most to see what they sound like, because they make some really freaky noises, and they ain't even close.
Yeah. No,
Well, it was definitely communicating with another one.
Yeah.
So it
How
was
many
definitely-
times though have we heard stories and reports, right, with witnesses who have heard something coming? It sounded far off at first. 5 minutes later, it sounds closer. 5 minutes later, it's even closer until it's
Mhm.
right up on them.
Mhm.
And then it continues and goes past. And is that a way for them to just to alert others? Maybe it's a lone juvenile, adult male or whatever who's
Looking for a new group.
or
Who's-
starting
or
his own group,
finding or looking for its mate or
or
whatever.
looking for a
like,
date.
know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You gotta
There
think these,
are.
these creatures
There you
live
are.
in potential packs.
Whoop.
As Renee would say. No, they are.
But
right?
if they
make-
live in packs, right? I
Yeah.
mean, or groups or family units of some sort,
Mhm.
they're going to split up. And when they forage, when they do things, and it's quite possible in the areas where there's a
Communication.
lot of lands. That's just what they do, But
and
when
they're
it's
signifying that they're coming through, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So Bob, I got a question for you. Did you have any other things to add for the whole expedition experience for yourself that that you haven't mentioned already?
Well, yes,
Besides the food, he means.
there was the one night I think it was Friday. The group I was with, we went down the logging road, quite a ways. Where the road where we found the footprint and did the casting demonstration. We went down there and almost to the point where there's a crossroad or an intersection down there, and you could, if I understand the topography, you could see it in the distance, and it really wasn't I don't remember anything Bigfoot or questionable or whooping or anything, but at some point a truck or vehicle started with headlights on, started coming from that direction, and we all had our red lights on our heads, and I just try to imagine the driver of that truck when all our heads turned towards the truck and the red lights. There was probably 8 or 9 of us there at least. And just what was going through his mind, because that truck stopped, it went into reverse, it did a spin, and it was gone.
I thought it was a bunch of aliens or something.
Yeah, right. I can't tell you how many times we've done road walks on expeditions or even scouting, and a car's coming along and we're all ditching in the, hiding in the
Jumping
ditch
into
or
the bushes,
jumping into the bushes and trying to hide, because
crouching in poison ivy. Yeah. One of the things we're told to do is to avoid detection by passing motorists, so we play Squatch. But yeah, I have audio of that actually happening up on one of my northern New Jersey expeditions. It's pretty comical.
This is poison ivy.
I probably have some as well.
It's pretty comical, I have to say. And hey, but that's what we've been taught. Honestly, I don't know that it's that important because, like you said, they spotted the red headlamps. They probably thought they were getting glowed at by red glowing eyes, and they got the heck out of there pretty quick.
Yeah, or somebody's got laser sights on a rifle and it was in bad shape.
Right. But for your first time expedition, I mean, like Brian was asking, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you walked away having learned quite a bit about how, to go about doing this research, right? And now you can take what you gathered and implement it in your areas, right? And
I mean, it inspired me to go buy a camper.
Oh, wow. Great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. That's something we were talking about doing too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and I got to say, every expedition, this is, it turns into just a bunch more family.
Mhm.
Everybody that comes on these things is usually just great people.
Yeah.
Like Patty and Tony, right? They've been on all 3 of our expeditions now, and so we just keep growing. The family unit keeps spreading, and
that's just more and more stories for everybody to watch.
That's right.
Yep.
So getting on that point, Nathan, we're going to be starting season 2, right? And we're going to wrap up this first season. Hopefully everybody enjoyed watching, and will continue to join us in the future. But we wanted to thank all of our listeners and followers, and remember to share us and give us a like and
subscribe.
Yeah, I think I'll let Brian say
I'll say it for you. Come on. now.
Where was the stereo?
Break
set?
Say it whenever you want.
I'm not ending it necessarily, but I'm kind of getting towards the end because we've been on quite a time now, and I think
Been a long time.
I think we've pretty much wrapped up everything. Wouldn't you say, Nathan?
I think we went through all my notes now, and the boss here, I think she said we got all of it.
I think so.
We
yeah.
got all the points correct.
And having Terri alongside of you this evening was a great treat. So thank you, Terri, for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Yes, thank you, Terry.
And
Yeah.
of course, we want to
Thanks.
thank Bob. Bob was
Thank you,
a lot of
Bob.
fun to be with, and yeah, and I enjoyed having him on our Bravo team that night. And I'm glad we got some results. You know, that's always
Yeah.
Absolutely.
hey, for an organizer. Nathan was the organizer and Terri, but you know, when you're assisting and you get some kind of result, it's always so gratifying. You know, because-
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And Bob, when you're in the loop, you're in the loop. So, you know, we'll
That's
definitely
right.
keep you informed of future things that are happening.
I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Get that camper out there, put it to some
That's
good
right.
use.
Yep.
Well, we already talked about it overnight at this location, right? And Bob's eager to do that, so hopefully we'll manage to put that together and get it on film, right?
That's
Sounds
right.
good.
We weren't even doing this yet at the expeditions that we had last. So this
No,
is
we
all-
weren't even thinking about it really.
This was almost a year later that we started this up, the
Yeah.
conversation, right? And hey, what do we got? 16, 17? I forget. This might make 18 episodes now. So that's a pretty long season one, I would have to say, right?
Yeah.
Most TV productions, they do 8 or 9 on their, maiden voyage, right? The pilot, and then they have 8 or 9 episodes, maybe.
Plus the network renewed it.
That's right. We got
Yeah.
picked up.
We did.
So once again, I want to thank everybody for who's joined us and continues to, tune in and comment. We appreciate the comments, of course, and we're going to keep bringing you some real legit stories and real encounters from real researchers. Right, guys?
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah. So thank you again. And remember to
Subscribe.
getting better.
Thanks for squatching.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Squatch Talks Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and give us a like, and stay tuned for more exciting stories on Squatch Talks.